My guest today decided to create an event in Lakeland that included punk rock music, unique vendors selling counterculture and eclectic items from all across Central Florida, while punk bands are also playing. Skaters are skating, showing everyone that comes that doesn't matter. You don't have to be punk to have a great time at Punk Flea. Welcome to the man behind Lakeland Punk Rock Flea, Chad Chastain. What's going on, Chad?
Hello. Hey, man.
What's happening, man? I really appreciate you taking the time to come on and spend some time with me. My first question usually always is, what is your kind of like go-to lunch or sandwich?
Well, oddly enough, like it used to be the Philly cheesesteak.
Okay.
That was my jam. It didn't matter what restaurant I went into. If there was a Philly on the menu, I just blindly ordered it. But I cut pork and beef out of my diet a couple of years ago just on a whim. So now it's like a chicken Philly, I guess. But I do really miss like a good, solid Philly cheesesteak.
Are you from Philly that you like
No.
cheesesteaks?
No, my middle name is Philip, but I'm not from Philly. I've never been.
I like
Yeah.
it. I like it. It's interesting that I kind of laugh when I hear things like that where people go, I will order it if it's on the menu. So even if you were like at, I don't know, didn't matter where it was, you literally would be like, I'm having a Philly.
Correct. Unless I had that exact one from that store before, then I might say, no, it's crap.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let me ask this then. In Lakeland, or best one you've had, is there a place you've had? What's your favorite place to get a Philly cheesesteak, whether it's steak or chicken? Do you have one?
I mean, Lakeland does not have a good Philly. So like when I'm at work, I will leave and go to a place called Sandwich Factory, and they have a chicken Philly that's passable. I'd say it's like a 6 out of 10.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, like a good Philly, you got to leave town for. Lakeland doesn't have the best restaurant options to begin with.
Okay.
But yeah, I think my wife and I discovered it on our honeymoon 22 years ago. Oddly enough, we went to Pensacola, which is a weird honeymoon. It was a free honeymoon. That's why we went.
Okay.
But there was a restaurant there, not even a restaurant. It was like a dive sandwich shop called Philly's. And I think we were there for 3 days, and we must have eaten 4 Philly cheesesteaks while we were there.
So you know it was good then.
I was like, this is solid. This is it.
All right.
Yeah.
So as much as I would love, everyone expects me to have the sandwich talk. I really want to talk more about Lakeland Punk Rock Flea. So tell people the origin story. How did it start?
Yeah. Man, so I am 42 years old. When I was like 16, maybe 15, I started booking punk rock shows back in the day. And I really never stopped. There was a few years where I kind of stopped doing concerts or shows or some minor events. But about 10 years ago, my wife, who works at an art museum here in town, started doing an art festival called Art Crawl. It's not quite a punk show, but there's some similar things to it. And I just kind of always thought like we share a similar space. So I went alongside with her to doing events. And then eventually I started hearing about punk rock flea markets happening in other parts of the country. Like I think New Jersey may have the first one. I'm sure I'm wrong on that, but I feel like that's the first one. And then St. Pete had one, Orlando had one. And I went to both of them. Just because I'm a punk rock kid and I think they're cool. So I went there, I did it, and I was like, I could 100% do this. And I feel like my motivation is maybe a little bit different than what their motivation was. Like Orlando's was awesome. They were both awesome, but Orlando's was very like neighborhood focused. And St. Pete's was very flea market focused. And I just kind of thought like, I don't like that there's an Orlando one or a St. Pete one. I kind of wish mine was called the Central Florida. Like I really have always been focused on merging all the different scenes and groups together into one big thing. Yeah. So even though mine's called Lakeland, that's just to establish the location.
Okay. And then when you decided to do it out of curiosity and you saw that there was other ones, did you reach out to someone and say like, oh, like someone's got like the whatever, like the punk rock flea handle. I'm going to like go that, like, did you have to go to someone to be like, hey, am I allowed? This is what I want to do. What are your thoughts?
Yes.
Or did you say, screw it, I'm doing it?
Well, I mean, I did. I reached out to Orlando, and that one was being ran by a guy named Scott White, awesome tattoo artist. I think it's Rise Above Tattoos. And then I also reached out to Rob Sexton, who runs Planet Retro Records in St. Pete. So they were both doing them. I went to both of theirs, which were solid. And I just reached out to the both of them and said, hey guys, out of sheer respect, I want to do something like what you guys have done. I don't want to ever create a turf war. I just want to like share it. And they both kind of, they were both cool about it. Scott especially was very cool about it. We talked about me coming up and doing one in Orlando too, but I think with the location in Will's Pub losing a lot of parking space, that kind of went away. But yeah, I totally wanted to be respectful to my elders, not even elders, but my similar people when doing it. But there was no like, you have the .com or anything like that, where there's nothing legal. This is all just like, hey dude, you cool with it? I'm cool with it. Yeah, let's be cool.
I like it. No, I like that.
Yeah.
What and so then how did you get it involved? How did you get it? How did it get involved with Swan Brewing? Because I'm assuming like so you had the idea, right? I'm assuming you and your wife, you probably after you did like the art walk thing, you were like, I have this idea, I want to do this. Where like how did you go about going? Okay, where am I going to do it at? Because like I know people sometimes have ideas like I want to do an event, but they don't know where to go and where to do it at.
Yeah. Well, that's another thing. So not only do I not eat beef and pork, I haven't drank alcohol since I was 15.
Okay.
So I don't have a lot of connections with bars and stuff like that, but I knew that Lakeland had a newish brewery downtown that had a cool outdoor area, and I just on a whim emailed them and said, "Hey, I'd love to meet and talk about maybe doing something." And it started out much smaller than the event you attended. But I just blindly was like, "Hey man, I would love to do something here. My goal is for you to have your best, one of your best days of the year and just to create a cool community event." And they kind of took a gamble on me because most venues would say, sure, we want you to pay $2,000 or we want you to commit to some kind of thing. And he was just like, his name's Dan. He's your doppelganger, by the way.
Yes,
If you
I
guys
know.
don't
We have a picture together.
Dan from Swan Brewing and Biggie are like twins.
We may have to show a picture of that on social, by the way.
Yeah. But he was just like, cool, man. Yeah, let's try something. He was eager to like create some kind of community events as well. They do events there all the time, but the Punk Rock Flea Market, I mean, very first one was massive, and it's just continued to get bigger every time. But I feel like the location is a huge element.
Yeah, no, I think it's a great spot. It's definitely a great spot. One of the when did you do the first one? So when was the first Lakeland Punk Rock Flea done? Do you know what year it was?
It was 2009. I don't remember. I don't recall. I feel like it was March. I think we did two, and then COVID happened. So that was probably like March and September of 2009, and then COVID happened, and I had to postpone the third one because of that. But yeah, 2009.
And then what? So give me a little bit about. I'm always kind of curious because interesting part is you and I met. I believe you and I met at Bandit Market. That was one of the markets that you had, and so I was kind of curious. So I'm assuming do you go to different markets to recruit, scope, look at, or just as obviously see other vending to shop? But give me a little bit about that because I know that that's kind of how we met and you approached me, and I know that I kind of was even I'm I don't think my brand's punk rock, dude. I was like, what are you talking about? I was very honest with you because I'm I'm honored, but I was like, I don't know if this is going to be work for me, but trust me, I definitely am. I'm punk rock. I'm I love it. I'm I'm in now. I'm in for anything that you make, Chad. So that's the reason why, but I kind of want to get a little bit of an idea of that process of when we met and kind of what your thought process is when you're selecting, because you do something a little different than other events. Obviously people still have to say, yes, I'm interested and pay and do all that, but there is a selection process of you hand select, I would say, who you think would be a great vendor to have. So I'm always kind of curious on what that selection process is or what, and things like that to maybe might help other businesses when to either be recruited or scouted, or maybe even just say, oh yeah, that's a great idea, I should do something like that.
Yeah. Well, I definitely, in my mind, I'm not scouting. I love going to markets, whether it's a garage sale or, a kind of crappy farmer's market, or even something like Milk Market or Indie Flea or something like that. I love going to those things, especially bringing my wife and my daughter, because I just feel like it's fun for me to buy them a candle or to just shop with them. So I like going. And my intention when I go to these events is never to steal a vendor or scout out new vendors. But if I come across someone that just has the right attitude or an awesome display, it's rare that you find someone that's that's punk rock, but you find someone that's counterculture or weird. And I like weird because people talk about it afterwards. And when I saw your sandwich booth, I didn't think that guy looks weird. I just thought the idea of what you're doing is so left of center and just kind of refreshing that I left talking about it. So that's kind of what I want to create with all of my events is I want every single booth to be something that's someone's going to walk away and be like, did you see that thing at the last booth or that one weird booth? Except every one of them are those booths.
No, and I noticed that, and I totally understood the day that I signed up and I went to the first one and I walked around before and I got to see so many different, and I would be like, okay, it makes sense. This is not your typical, when you come here, it's not that it's oddities or anything like that. It's just that they're oh, this is really cool. And the other thing is the people that come to this, it's a variety. You have your typical, you have some typical punk rock, because obviously punk rock music's playing. But even then I was just man, this is great. I love the music. Everything was great. But there's such a variety of people, of diversity that I absolutely loved, because I was this this is fun. Like, I'm like, that's kind of what I want. I like
Yeah.
that. I like the different types of people, not just the same, person coming in, and then just seeing a variety of different vendors and what they're have. I mean, I appreciated the fact that you saw that and that you invited me, because I was like, man, I'm like, this is really cool. I could see why, people like this.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and that's a big thing too. Like if I can create a relationship with someone or get to know them in person, like you and I spoke before we had ever made any kind of arrangement. If you would have been off-putting or hard to talk to, it may have not led anywhere, but like you're an outgoing guy. And I like that. Like I want you to kind of sell yourself to me, not knowing that I'm the punk rock guy. I want you to just be like, be a cool dude, because that's who I want to work with. When I make deals with vendors and I send out the email about the event and it has all the general, this is the location, this is the load in, blah blah. But rule number one is, I don't know if language is a problem.
Go ahead.
Don't be a dick.
Yep.
If you're a dick, bye. You're not on the list.
By the way, that's one of the rules I taught my daughter. I said, hey, I'm like, it's like how you want to be treated, treat people the way you ought to be treated. And then one day I just said, listen, at the end of the day, it all comes down to don't be a dick. Like literally, that's what it is. I'm like, just be how do you want someone to treat you? So I totally get that. And it's very true.
And I want the vendors to be cool with me, cool with my staff, cool with the neighboring vendors. I mean, if I know that this vendor and their neighbor vendor got into a little tiff, like I make a mental note of that. I'm like, it's not cool. Like we're here, we're all creating the same environment. So, don't be a dick. Ever.
So tell people a little bit about kind of the evolution of it. So obviously you started doing, because this is obviously evolved now, and you don't just do the Lakeland Punk Rock Flea. So when it started, how many vendors did you start with, and where are you at now? Where are you at now, like with the next iteration of 20 markets? Like what's the number of vendors and food folks and all that stuff?
Yeah. Well, the very first one I did was we had not rented out the road or anything. So this was all inside the square footage land of the venue. I think it was 25 vendors, maybe 24 vendors, and they were all like 6x6 spaces. So you were like at a house party. If you were getting by someone, you're having to squeeze by. It was very intentional. Like I wanted that kind of like you had to bump into people. So about 25 at the first one was what I think, and maybe only 3 bands. So nowadays, the Lakeland one, which is the big one, we'll have anywhere from 76, which is what I'm doing at this one, to about 80, which is what we did at the last one. And to tell you the truth, that's a lot. I don't know how these bigger markets do it and not like lose their mind. I'm going to keep it around that number, but 76 is the next, the 8th Lakeland one. It's just a lot to keep track of, man. And I like to make sure I've got time to like check in with people and chit chat and get to know everyone. And that's a lot. I don't get to enjoy the event if it gets any bigger than that.
I get that. And I will tell you that I truly appreciate as a vendor the fact that you do come by. I appreciate the fact that you actually bring snacks throughout the trip, like throughout the day or the night, which I absolutely appreciate. I think it's awesome that you do that. And I just really do. I mean, I really am a huge fan of this event. That's one of the reasons why I wanted to chat with you about it, because I'm sold on the whole thing after doing a few of them already.
Thank you.
So then how did that kind of go from there? Because now, and it's funny that you brought up St. Pete in the initial origin story. So have you now taken over? Because I know if I'm right, I know you do like the holiday markets. I know there's a Bradenton one. I know there's like 2 of them in St. Pete. There's like an AC one, I think I read, and a regular one. Are those all of them that you're doing as well? Like did it just kind of now increase as time went on?
Well, I started once the 3rd one happened. I think the 3rd Lakeland one was the first time we rented out the road and really expanded and kind of like found our footing. I got reached out by someone in St. Pete that wanted me to do one down there. And I really didn't want to step on toes or anything with going into St. Pete. So when I did, of course, I reached out to the guy that ran the St. Pete one to make sure things were cool. And the agreements were, if I'm going to do it, then it's going to be under a different name. So that's why it's called Punk Flea in the AC.
That's okay. So that's what I was trying to figure out. And then is the Punk Flea in the AC is because it is indoors?
It was indoors. Yeah. It was at a venue, which was just really hard to find, but it was at an indoor venue that the stage area was outside and the food trucks were outside, but the rest of it was all inside. And it was cool. That was kind of like a one of. The venue was awesome initially. And then there was a lot of red tape that made things really uncomfortable for me. So I just opted to not go back to that venue. And then I did a second one in St. Pete as well. And we called that one the Punk Flea Pop-Up. So we still went with a different name.
Yep.
And that one was at an awesome little brewery that unfortunately shut down called the Brutalist. So I think they changed business plans. So I think they're still open, but now they're like a different business.
Got it.
But in Bradenton, same thing. They reached out to me and said, hey, we'd love to do something down here like that. There had not been one in Bradenton. And to tell you the truth, I had never been to Bradenton. I don't know if you have. It's not an amazing city.
Bradenton is going toward, is like past, it's like where Legoland is. Is that right?
No, Legoland is in Winter Haven. That's closer to me here. Yeah. So
Bradenton is more, Bradenton's closer to Sarasota.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Never mind. Yes.
So what I learned was when I do a punk flea in St. Pete's a big city. It's already got a pretty strong punk scene. It doesn't do as big as Lakeland's. So when I did Bradenton, I was like, I don't know what to do. The venue is awesome. It's at a venue called Escura, and they're like one of my favorite places, period. But Bradenton is a small town, and people came out of the woodwork for it. So, like, I can't really explain it, but we do better in smaller towns. The people are hungry. They want something. In Orlando, there's a market every single weekend. In St. Pete and Tampa, there's stuff to do every day. But in Lakeland, we're bored. In Bradenton, I mean, I don't want to speak bad about Bradenton, but it's a small town, a smaller town. They get bored. Town. Yeah. So they're hungry for it.
How does that work with, like, because you're obviously there's performances happening. So not only are you also, so you're not only dealing with the vendors, you're also dealing with all the different bands. And then how often, since I definitely, in my research, how often do the cutoffs, the band that you're in and play drums in, how often do you be like, oh, we're going to go in and do a set too while, in my own events? Like, how often does that happen?
Yeah, well, more often than I'd like. I love being in my band. I love playing shows, but to add a show into a massive market, it's a lot. Like, I have to, I can't be a part of the band during this, only when I'm on stage. So it's a little bit of a different scenario for me as a musician. But we played one time in Bradenton, and we've played twice in Lakeland. And one of those times was because a band backed out and we needed someone to fill in a day or two later. So that was kind of a impromptu thing. But we're going to be playing the next one, and my band has promised me that they're going to help out to make sure it's not as stressful on me, because it can get that way. But yeah, I like to always have bands present with what I do. I mean, it's in the freaking name. You can't do a punk rock flea market without punk. So and I try to, when I book bands, I kind of do two things with booking bands. Is I try to pull bands from Orlando and Tampa Bay area every single time, and sometimes further. So like in March, I've got Melbourne, I've got Orlando, I'm going to have St. Pete. In Bradenton, I'm going to have Jacksonville, I'm going to have Cape Coral. So I'm not trying to just play bands from Lakeland. Number one, there's not enough bands in Lakeland.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to merge the communities every single time. So I want to book bands north of us and south of us and east of us and west of us if possible. And then number two, and this is the harder part, I try my hardest to have female representation on stage. If not, then some kind of LGBT proactive band representation on stage. And both of those are very, very difficult to make happen. And unfortunately, I was not able to do that for the next Lakeland one. But I promise I'll put my best foot forward to make sure it happens at future ones. But I hate throwing sausage party shows. So I want there to be as much equal representation as possible. Yeah. And I don't like to always be the dude up on stage either. I don't like people to know that that weird white guy's the one running everything. I kind of like to be in the background.
I think that's great. I think it's amazing what you do. And I will say that I do agree with you in the aspect of the smaller towns, because I've done stuff like DeLand Indie Market, and I've done Sanford Indie Market, and those places kind of want to have those type of events. Usually anytime there's a brewery involved, that's always a good, usually makes for a good time for, for folks to be there and be able to do some shopping and stuff like that. Where did the love for punk rock music come from?
When I was, I think 14, I mean, there's not some amazing story. I think my family and I were eating at Pizza Hut in Fayetteville, Georgia, which is where I used to live. And I got into an argument with my parents, or not my dad. My dad was never there. So I got in an argument with my mom and my siblings, and I was like, fuck you guys. And I go out to the minivan and turn the car on. At that time, I think it was 97X or 99X was the radio station. And they played back to back. I don't remember which one came first, but back to back, it was Green Day's When I Come Around, and it was the Offspring Smash. So that's where my
some good
lineage
ones.
begins.
Okay.
Yeah. And I mean, they were the first two songs that truly like became mine. Like I had an older brother that introduced me to Nirvana and Metallica and all that kind of stuff. So I liked it, but it wasn't mine. That was like me liking his music. So this was the first time when I was like, those guys are where it's at. And then I'm like a researcher. So when I find Green Day, the first thing I do is I find old Green Day. And then I go, oh, they used to have a band before that. And I go to that band called Operation Ivy. And then Offspring, I go back and listen to their old stuff. And I go, oh, they're on Epitaph Records. And there's all these other bands. So I just immediately like went down the rabbit hole.
I like that. That's fun though. I think that's the way to do it. It's kind of fun because my daughter's not into punk music, but she's like one of those. So she does her research and starts going and looking at older things and then kind of diving in.
Which is a lot harder to do back in the 80s and 90s.
Yeah. Now it's easy as heck. You can like literally find all of it in the second on your phone. So I definitely get that. What do you So since you've done so many events, what do you think makes for a good event? Like what makes it like where you're like, yeah, this is a good event? I think, what are the keys to it?
Well, I mean, it's like the real estate rule, location. If something's wrong with a location, it doesn't matter how good the bands are, how great the market is. If the location doesn't work, then it just all falls apart. So that is a big part of it. Unfortunately, like I said, I don't drink alcohol, but if you put a beer in someone's hand, they spend more money. So for a vendor at a brewery is good for you guys. And if you're a band performing, it sucks to perform in front of a bunch of sober people. It's great to perform in front of a bunch of half-drunk people because they get into that stuff. So alcohol is a big aspect of it. And then for me, I have to keep in mind that like, not everyone that's coming out to these events is punk rock. Maybe the dad is, or maybe the daughter is, but I have to keep in mind of the rest of the family. So like there are some vendors that are counterculture that like my wife might enjoy shopping at, or something that's going to reach the entirety of the family. So there's usually some kind of kids activity. We have like free DIY button stations where they can make their own buttons. A lot of times we have the live t-shirt screen printing. We've had pet skunks out there many, many times. So I'm trying to always include things for the kids. We will actually have a ride at the next Lakeland Punk Rock Flea Market. That'll be a first.
What kind of ride?
I'm not riding it. It is one of those, you get into a big metal ball and it rotates a whole bunch of different ways, like what an astronaut training would be. Yeah. It looks cool. It looks fun for some, but not for me. There's no chance I'm stepping in it.
I get that.
Yeah.
I get that.
Yeah. But we'll have that kind of stuff.
Okay. I like that. So through the years now, you've been doing this for a while. You've been seeing other things and seeing other businesses and stuff like that. I'm always kind of curious. Like when you come across a small business, like what do you think are some things that you notice that make some businesses successful? And then what do you think are some things that you notice that you've noticed that kind of may lead to their failure? Like, is there certain things that you kind of can tell sometimes? And sometimes obviously it may not be because I will say that when you're walking sometimes, it's not one of those things you're going to be like, oh, that's a crappy brand or this and that, because you're just walking. But I'm always kind of curious, like as you start walking and you're looking at some of these things, I'm always kind of curious, like what, people like you that are actually looking and do you have to select and things like that. What are some things that you look at that you're like, wow, this makes for a really good brand or business, or hey, these are some things that I noticed that kind of lead to why some of these brands and businesses fail?
Yeah. Well, most of the vendors that I come across, I stumble across online. So if they have a inactive online status, I am not interested in them at all. If they're really, really active, then, that's good. That's just good business. But in person, I want to see a display that's like not just on the table, not just up here, but I want to see stuff up top, in the middle, down here. I like to see different price points. So, I don't want a bunch of everything's $35 or everything's $5. I like it to be kind of, we can vary different things. But if they don't display well, if they don't have a good personality, and if they don't have a good online presence, I don't think it's a good business model.
I agree with that. I mean, those are all key elements that I think are super important and things that I kind of like.
And you check all three of those boxes, by the way.
I appreciate that. I will say that sometimes it's funny because you can like, it makes sense like when you go in and like a lot of times then I sometimes will ask, because I'll ask other people like when they go and they shop, because like I'll be honest with you, for a little bit I had no prices displayed on my on my stuff. I wanted people to have that conversation with me. But then I got enough people telling me, oh, I don't want to talk to anyone. Like, I only want to talk to you if I want to buy. So then I was like, well, I guess I should put my prices on something. And I started displaying prices because of it, because that was and for all these years, I didn't do it because I wanted to have that interaction. And then I realized people were like, no, I don't want to, unless I have to talk to you, I don't want to talk to you. There's not, people aren't all like me where they are extroverts. So, you know, and I do say the same thing to a lot of people. I'm like, you got to have the entry product where if someone likes you, but they don't want to spend the money of a t-shirt, but they want to support you in some way, they'll buy a sticker. And that's another way for them to be able to do it and take away from it and stuff like that. So like, you should always have, you know, kind of like your tiers of when it comes to the price points. I totally agree with that.
Yeah. And my wife has been doing art events for so long. She's also been helping with other bigger art festivals as well. And that's one of the main things they tell artists when they display is have your prices out. Those that don't sell. Those that do sell. And it's not because they're overpriced or underpriced. It just answers that question initially. So for you to have your prices out, your conversation is more like, what sizes do you have? Or, oh, is that an Orlando Magic style shirt?
Yeah.
Or is, you know,
no, and I totally agree with that. I never even thought of it, and that's like why I like asking those questions, because especially since you walk around and you get to see, because that's the big thing for me as a vendor. I don't get to see. I only get to see if once I'm set up, and then a quick walk around, look and see what's out there, and then once I'm in my booth, like that's it. Like I'm in my box. Event. Like I don't know any better, so I don't know those things. So sometimes like I'm like, ooh, I want to be able to learn. Like, ooh, how do you display that? How do you do that? Like I'm always kind of looking and trying to figure those things out. So I always like to ask my other frienders, like, what are you doing? And like seeing pictures of what other people's displays are, because I do think that you do need your eyes to be able to be able to capture people on different levels, because when they're walking sometimes in some events, you don't like, they may beeline and they may be just talking with a friend and just kind of looking, and you just kind of want to have, you know, you got to be able to catch your eye somewhere where even if it's like the peripheral, be like, oh, what is that? And then they like turn around and look and you're like, oh, what is that? Like, that's so weird. Like that's my favorite when people do that with me and my sandwich shirts, because they're like, what the heck is this? Like, what is this brand? So I do appreciate that.
Yeah. And then I guess like there are some people that just lay stuff flat on a table. I mean, I'm not even going to stop and look in that booth. Now, if it's a rainy day, and I think you and I may have spoken about this, if it's at all a rainy day, you need to change your whole setup and like allow people to be able to walk in and get in the shade. Because if you're set up in a way that like they can't get out of the rain, you're not selling anything. I had a friend whose booth was set up that way, and then it started pouring. This was at a Pride festival that I was at. It started pouring, so they pulled their table all the way back and just set their booth up backwards, and like 20 people came in and they sold so much stuff because it rained for like 20 minutes. So everyone felt guilty and they just started buying their stuff to like say thank you for letting me get out of the rain. But I don't know, it worked for them.
No, and I totally agree with that. I think it's great to be able to do that. It builds in that whole aspect of being able to have people come in, especially if I've also noticed that sometimes when you're selling, I appreciate sometimes when someone comes in and starts talking, and then when you're starting to have that dialogue with them, then people are like, oh, what's going on over here? And they like have like that group mentality. So all of a sudden, or crowd mentality, and all of a sudden they're like, oh, what's this? And then they're like, stop and listen. And then they're like, oh, okay. And then like next thing you know, then you start grabbing a crowd. That's my favorite to do, because then that way, at least I'm like, okay, I got some attention now. And some people are kind of watching and stopping and listening and us being able to have that talk. So I always enjoy that when it comes to that. So you average how many events then? I know like the Lakeland Punk Rock Flea does like at least 2, but then what about the other events? Like like in a course of a year, how many events are you planning? Because I know there's a holiday events and things like that, but like how many events would you say like in 2020 you're looking to have or be part of to do?
Realistically, I think 4 is the number, which breaks down to 2 Lakeland Punk Fleas, 1 holiday night market, which we can talk about that in a second, and then 1 Bradenton Punk Flea. They want me to do more Bradenton ones, but it's just difficult to time it. St. Pete is not off my radar. It's just I don't have a good location, so I'm not even addressing it, or Orlando for that matter. But last year I did 6, and that was a big year. It was a lot of work and very little payoff for me. This is not a job. This is like a passion project. If you've ever been in a punk rock band, you know we don't make money from what we do. But last year was a lot of work. So 4 is really the number I'm going to aim at.
Okay. I like that. And then I know like the way the holiday markets work, it's kind of like a mix, which I think is very interesting. Did the city basically comes to you guys
Yeah.
and basically, because I know there's other Lakeland events. And then with that being said, before we do the holiday market, I'm kind of curious, like with other Lakeland events happening, do you have not like a turf war, because obviously they do it in different places, but do you have like, or is there like a conversation so that way, because obviously you're not then competing with vendors, competing with dates, and there's like a certain time frame, like how does that kind of work? Because I know that kind of happens sometimes in Orlando and other locations that have a lot of markets.
Yeah. Well, in Lakeland, I'm buddies with all the people that do markets. So Julie does the farmers market. I'm in the First Friday market. Stephanie does the Buena markets. In Winter Haven, Lindsay and Chris and Amy do the Bandit markets. So those guys they're all buds. So we just kind of like follow each other, and we know that, oh, this happens around this time. And I always promote mine like way in advance. So you can see what the dates are. But I did make the mistake when I did the last Bradenton one, where I had checked around like what events were happening around those times, because when I commit to a date, I commit 6 months in advance. But I had basically checked around and didn't think to check Sarasota and to check St. Pete. So on the day of my Bradenton market happened to be the same day as the Atomic Bazaar, which is in St. Pete, or excuse me, in Sarasota, and Shopapalooza, which was in St. Pete.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I thought, oh my God, this is gonna suck. But it turns out it was the biggest Bradenton event ever, because
really,
basically people went market hopping from each one, and they were like, Shopapalooza is this market, Atomic is that market, and the Punk Flea is in its own weirdness. So it didn't hurt us. We did have bad weather that day, but it wasn't as bad as what I thought. Turned out to be great. I try to be respectful. I don't ever want to step on other people's events' toes. But here in Lakeland, we all know each other's schedules, roughly schedules.
Well, it also sounds like you do the Lakelands. You kind of have like it's known, like it's in March and September is usually
into March and September.
Yeah, usually kind of how you have it, which works out very well, because then it's like, okay, it's a consistency on it, which I do think that is very, very effective when you're doing markets like that, because then people are aware of it. It's coming up. The fact that you're doing it in March, where it's like right before it starts getting too hot and rainy, and then
it's
March,
hot.
Yeah, but it's not as bad as like a June, July, August summer market. I wish there was an indoor market sometimes. I'll keep throwing that out there for someone to take a bait and try to make a summer market indoors.
We'd have to charge admission to get in.
You probably would.
Yeah.
But you know what? Like I don't know if you've ever been to Atomic, but Atomic actually charges to buy.
Yeah.
You pay to go in, and it's pretty crazy how much people stand in line for and do it. She's been doing it for like 16 years. So
I think it's cool. It just scares me. I like the free concept.
No, I agree. I agree with that. But I also like the fact that those people paid. That means they're going to come in the shop. In that aspect.
Yeah.
I like
On the inverse is like one of those, like a convention, like a Comic-Con or MegaCon or Shop Spookala or something like that. People have to pay $40, $50, $80 to get in. Well, that means now they're spending $80 less on merch. Correct. So I don't ever want to put any barriers in the way of the vendors from potentially selling. But
I agree with that. There is a science to all of that, in the sense of, and that's one of the things I appreciate, even when you say, because I think there is a science based on how many vendors and how many people, and then the dollars that people are going to spend between the drinking and eating, and then also shopping. And I don't know what the answer is. I just know that, and like I don't know if sometimes too many vendors is better than not enough vendors. I don't know the answer, but I do agree that it's got to be hard to manage, to be able to do that the larger the event gets, because I do see you at least twice coming around to give snacks and stuff, but I also see you around the course of the day as well, with it, because you're doing laps constantly around trying to solve problems when you're doing the event, which I think is great. So I want to kind of use this as a time to give people a pitch. Obviously my podcasts are evergreen, but I want the idea is I want people to be able to listen to this at any time, not exactly be like time focused, but obviously the episode will air with uptime, with plenty of time for people to mark in their calendars in March and September. But give people the pitch of why should I drive to Lakeland to come to watch to Lakeland Punk Rock Flea and do an event? Tell me why. Which I was amazed, because when I did go, I had a lot of people that from Orlando that actually did drive up, and they're like, these are great, I love them. And I was like, where the heck have I been? I'm like, I need to be coming to these more. But I don't want to come to them as a customer. I want to go as a vendor, but I would come as a customer as well, because it is definitely fun what you're creating. Let's say I've never been, and I'm like, hey Chad, I'm not punk, but why would I want to go? Why should I come to the Lakeland Punk Rock Flea?
Yeah. Well, everyone likes people watching. So what is it? Walmart, or not Walmart.com, but Walmart at after midnight or something. There's some website like where you see weirdos. We got weirdos. I'm one of them. I'm not as weird as some can be, but we got a lot of really good people watching. There's interesting, eclectic shopping, but then there's also some kind of like straight down the middle stuff. So like everyone can come and find something that speaks to them. I mean, I'm trying to make it fun for everyone. My daughter loves it. All of her friends love it. She's turning 13 tomorrow. So it's perfect in her wheelhouse. My son is not into punk rock at all, but he and his girlfriend met up and they just walked around the event. And it was, I don't think they bought anything, but it was still like a fun, eclectic, experience to do. My mother-in-law is in her 70s and she came and she has a great time at it. It does get a little hot because March and September, it doesn't matter what, it's Florida, it's hot. But it's just excellent. The live music, the interactive activities that you can do. I'm trying to show everyone that punk rock is fun and it's not some scary, what you've seen on the movies where some Mohawk guy breaks a bottle and stabs someone, or, that stuff doesn't happen at these kind of events, or at least it shouldn't happen at these events. But it's just fun for everyone. Like when you go, it's something that's not going to happen on any other day.
Yeah. No, I love it. And I think that you really do take the time to find different vendors and different businesses that, exactly what we kind of said, like counterculture, eclectic things that you don't usually see, that are handmade artwork. There's like the fact that you have actually like, hey, skaters, here's an area for you to skate. I mean, I think that's fun. I think that's great. Like I want places like that are like inclusive and be like, hey, we could all have fun and have a good time. So I totally get that. I think it's I definitely think it's a great event. Like I said, I'm super excited. Hence the reason why I wanted to share your story and kind of have more people actually be able to listen to it and be able to kind of be like, hey, I want to go check it out now. When it comes, I'm going to follow them on social. And with that being said, before we get to that point of you start plugging socials and stuff like that, I always like to ask folks, what advice would you give someone for starting something?
Oh man, I feel like, YouTube, just find someone else that's done it somewhere else, see what they did, and then see how it fits a hole in your community. So don't just copy what someone else is doing, but be aware of what your business or market or community or even bands, like try to find what's not currently being done or that you would like to see again, and then just create that. So don't go out there and recreate the same wheel, but like find a problem or some kind of issue that like my big focus is I want to connect the communities. So Lakeland has a bad reputation of being hillbilly. It's not, but when I first moved to Florida, we had a Hooters Inn in North Lakeland, right on I-4. And that's what everyone saw when they drove through. So Lakeland was connected to that for people that never stopped here. Like it was a joke. But I'm trying to create Orlando and St. Pete and Tampa and even a little outside and just merge everything. So find a way to solve a problem or fill a hole with what you're doing. So if you want to make t-shirts, don't just make your streetwear t-shirt. Find something that like elevates your personality, or like what you do is like, I love the stuff that you do because it's so like, it is just a t-shirt, but it's also like hilarious. And it's like when someone sees someone wearing one of your shirts, they know that dude's really into those sandwiches, or, hey, I also like that, just it connects people.
Yeah.
So
no, I love the idea of the connection. I think it's super important. And I totally agree with that in the sense that if you're going to do it, find your spin on it. How are you going to make it different? What's going to make it different? I think that's always kind of the hard one. And then I do agree with the YouTube aspect of it. Like I research, like I have a clothing brand and I'm constantly watching other clothing brands tell me like how they do things. And I'm just like, even just for like a check the box going, oh yeah, I do those things. Yeah, I do those things. Or, I haven't done that. So
there's tips and tricks.
Yeah. I'm always down for tips and tricks. I always wanted tips and tricks. Where can people follow and check out Punk Rock Flea and get more information? What's the socials and all that stuff? Obviously, all these things are going to be on the show notes, but where can they find it if they're while they're listening on this and they're like scrolling on their Instagram? How can they follow you guys?
Yeah, we have it. It's Lakeland Punk Flea. It's just essentially a landing page, but Facebook, Instagram, just Lakeland Punk Flea. And And unfortunately, that's the same thing for the Bradenton one. It's where we do everything from. So you can message me directly from that. You can email me. The email's on all those things too. I prefer Instagram or even a Facebook message first, because right there I can click on your profile and go in and see what, like if you wanted to vend, that I can go and look at your stuff. And if you send me a message from your personal page and you say, hey, I want to be a vendor, well, I'm just going to be responding back with a series of questions that you should have answered from your business page. So I hate that. I don't like it from, your personal page.
I like that. No, that makes sense. That makes sense, because at the end of the day, like,
it happens every day.
Really?
Every day.
Do you got any other business pet peeves that you see that happen? Especially, do you have any that kind of bother you, like on the day of market? Because I guess before I go there, let's rewind on that. I'll make it a little bit more towards the aspect of social. I'm always kind of curious on your thoughts on people who promote on social and events and stuff like that. You do a heck of a job. Like you said, you figure out, what it is, but you've kind of created, which I love, it's like almost like a little template of like what it's like, and then every single vendor almost pretty much gets like some kind of like that kind of treatment and love. Mm-hmm. And then that way it's kind of like that's how they're highlighted, which I love. And I think a lot of it is because of the fact that, one, the size, you have enough of a size, but you're also doing it far enough in advance. But I'm always kind of curious on your thoughts when, as being someone who creates an event, because obviously you want to make money and you want people to come to these events so you could do more events. But what are your thoughts on how like the social media aspect, and like those other vendors that come like and don't promote and don't share and don't do any of those things and then just expect you to do it? I'm always kind of curious on that side of it, because I don't think that's something that people get to hear, the amount of work and time it takes to do those things to be able to run a successful event.
Yeah, well, that falls into the being a dick category. If you don't promote the show that you're vending at, then do you really care? So yeah, I expect every vendor to do some minor promo. And I don't ask them to, but I feel like it's common sense. I don't need to parent you and tell you, hey, promote this. You want it to do well, you do it too. But I spend most of my money outside of paying bands and all that stuff. I spend most of my money on promo, and it's pretty much all Instagram, Facebook. But I do print. I give away stickers. We give away hundreds of stickers at every event, but we do posters and stuff like that too. But it would be awesome if every single vendor would do 2 posts. Hey, I'm doing an event next week and I'm doing an event tomorrow. That would be fantastic. I would love that.
Is that ever one of those things where you kind of ask, like, is on your list, or ask or do a reminder email? Like, maybe have you thought of doing that? Or is that something, I know it's common sense. I think it's common sense. The reason I ask the question is because I think to myself sometimes, if you have an event that has this many vendors and every one of those vendors has, let's just say for the hell of it, 1,000 people, and most of them have more than that, and all those people promoted it, then you have 80 vendors and there's 1,000 people and like only a fraction get it, like you should get more people. So that's kind of one of those things where I'm always kind of curious on how that kind of works, and if it kind of bothers you, because I've talked to some folks that they're kind of like, I literally have to email them, and I get it, like email images of the event, Facebook, Instagram, almost kind of like, hey, I'm feeding it to you now, add your your thing to it. But I'm always kind of intrigued by how people, how much that must eat up people who create events, because it is actually both of our events. Like, I'm paying you to be part of it, and you want me to be part of it, and we both should be basically make lots of money and make everyone happy. So
I used to send out a lot more emails, but what happened was, and this is just technology, people's spam filters, like I would send out an email to everyone, hey, the events, here's the details, and almost everyone would be like, oh, I didn't get it because it went to my spam folder. So now I send them one at a time. So if I send you, Biggie, an email, you're the only person I'm sending an email to.
Really?
So, and times 80 vendors, times 6 bands, times all this, so it's a lot. And like I said, I've tried to do it differently in the past, and it's just, I put more effort into it, and I really want there to be a personal touch with everything. So I don't want to do that times 2.
No.
But yeah.
No, I did not realize that you did it that way. And it wasn't just like I did realize that my email was not to me, but I didn't realize that you were sending it just to me and not like, kind of like the BCC, like everyone's CCC'd or BCC.
Yeah. And I know people do that, and I know there's programs that do that. My wife does that with her art organization. And I just want the personal touch.
No,
it's just,
man.
You
I
know, got to be
appreciate it.
authentic.
Like I said, I appreciate it. It's one of the reasons why I love the Lakeland Punk Rock Flea, and I'm in it. I'm in it till you tell me not to be in it anymore.
Yeah.
I am definitely in it, so I definitely appreciate it. That is our show for today. Thank you so much to Chad Chastain for being on. I definitely appreciate it. Definitely check out Lakeland Punk Rock Flea. Go online, find it, look them up, take a look, see all the different vendors, all the different things. Definitely music is entertaining. The food, good beer at Swan Brewing. It's definitely a great situation. I definitely think it's a great time to check out. If, definitely check them out, follow them. If you enjoyed the show, make sure to subscribe. If you want to check out my brand, Deli Fresh Threads, do that. Do some shopping, tell your friends. Heck, take a sandwich selfie. I'm all about those. And especially if it's a Philly, make sure to tag both of us because he loves a good chicken Philly and a good regular Philly. Thank you. Until next time, keep eating sandwiches and follow your passion.